The patient in today's story was in bad shape. This dancer had such bad nerve pain and was so tired that they couldn't do the thing that they loved the most. However, we have a surprise ending of unlocking not just higher levels of performance, but deeper things within themselves as well. So you don't want to miss this story of Innate. I'm Jenna Quinton, founder of Adjust Your Media and your host for this podcast, where we're going to talk about a story of someone who was helped by chiropractic so that their body could heal itself. We're also going to get into how chiropractors can better share their stories, how they can get better, not Google reviews, but Google testimonials, and how they can even ask their patients effectively for a photo, taking ego out of the equation. So listen up. Today's guest on What Chiropractic Doesn't Cure Stories of Innate is Dr. Joshua Gelber. He is a chiropractor in Toronto at Annex Family Chiropractic, where he sees a wide variety of folks, from university students to children to seniors who want to stay active. So thanks for talking to me, Dr. Josh.
Jen, it's always a pleasure speaking with you.
Well, it is for me too, because I love you have such a dedication to education. Yes, I did that on purpose, the little rhyming. I'm going to use that again. But I also love your sense of humor because you share stories and you do it so well. So I'm looking forward to this.
Thank you.
Today, what is the story you want to tell us? How did chiropractic help somebody's body to heal itself?
Well, as we've spoken about before, and as we, put into my social media feed, I got an email, I guess it was just under a month ago, 3 weeks ago, from a patient who's in their halfway through their second year of care. And I cried reading this email. I literally had to go back and read it a second time, that it was so touching. And the basic background is she had booked an online first visit. And as I read, an intake form that says, well, I've had a pinched nerve and it's really hurting, and I've had physiotherapy and osteopathy. And I thought, might as well add adjustments to it. And I don't know if they watched my welcome video, which explains a subluxation-oriented approach, or it was a phone call that was like, oh, this is different.
Yes.
We got a big download of discomfort in the body and the pinched nerve slowing them down, to jaw pain and trouble sleeping, and where tension is all held. There was a huge download that ultimately has had me aware that this is a passionate dancer who's working a desk job as well, but always falls back into a variety of dance styles. And I remember at one point showing me a video of this new dance thing that I just had to look at the video and think, I'm not doing that.
Exactly.
So we started care, and there was just an instant rapport. There was just this instant, these adjustments are working. I'm noticing an impact from upper cervical for jaw work to just working on a lot of upper thoracic, pelvic stuff. It was really clear to see why dancing was hindered or limited in certain capacity, which was mentioned in this impromptu email about getting accepted to a dance program in Germany. So I have to say, the exciting part about this scenario was the slow and steady response. There wasn't an expectation of miracles soon. There wasn't an anxiousness to how quickly can I get better. There was it might take a year. I might turn out better. I've had some chiropractic care before. This seems like a good fit. And we just started. And it just really became magical over time. Steady and slow response, more dance capacity, better endurance, some setbacks here and there between jaw pain, tons of emotional clenching, trouble sleeping as a result. I even went as far as knowing my limitations. So I have a colleague I used to work with. He does some intraoral work. Said, Dennis, maybe Flo needs to see you for a bit. She goes to see him. She's so appreciative of that injection of a different approach. And then Dennis came back to me a month later, said, it's pretty straightforward. Let me show you what to do. And so we sat and we spent half an hour showing me some refreshing intraoral jaw work, things he did. And we applied them for a while, and ultimately we kind of stopped, noticing, is it really having as much impact? Maybe. If it just paved the way for more upper cervical response. Fast track, 9-10 months later, if I'm remembering correctly, that everything is better. Function is better. Dancing is happening. Again, the random email of I got accepted to a 4-month program in Berlin. I don't know if I would have done this. I almost gave up on dancing. I couldn't. I was frustrated, to just feeling awesome. And there was some gender shifting surgery that happened last fall as well, where recovery, speed, and pace surprised others. And I don't know, I never asked who it surprised, but the fact that there was a faster recovery and getting back on the adjusting table and just stepping back into change slowly and steadily is, it's what reminds me that healing takes time.
Yes.
Chiropractic doesn't cure anything, it just removes that interference. And we just never stopped. Outside of
Yes.
little travel here, like the surgery happened out of the country, there's a few gaps. But I wonder how many people don't send that email. They might be thinking about that email, but they're in that, my life's changed. So that was, a really fresh circumstance to share today.
Absolutely. I love this story because there are so many moving parts, because it went beyond relief for a pinched nerve to really a search for higher performance. And I love that we can see this in an individual who is doing dance, which, like you said, from range of motion to artistic expression, there's so much happening
Oh
there.
yeah.
And that the search wasn't just I need to not be in pain, because we can take painkillers and be like, okay, I'm numb.
Sure.
But there was just this really beautiful, touching search for a higher level of performance. And I pulled up part of this because we have it ready for your social media to share. And part of this was saying, I do believe the adjustments have unlocked deeper things as well. And I was like, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Unlocking deeper things. Flo said, I'm not sure how to explain it logically. Maybe it doesn't need to be explained logically. And, that is where we talk about these stories. And I think that stories are so crucial because we can share studies. And I think you and I both can get nerdy on studies. But chiropractic has that three-legged stool approach of being the philosophy, the science, and the art. And a story brings it together, that you have these data points of how is this person doing over these last 2 years. We have the starting point of being too tired and in too much pain to continue dancing, that data point to being accepted in an intensive dance program. So we have science and data points there, but we also have this art of, like you said, moving with the body and what the body needs at different moments through different needs. And I think that that's just such a beautiful expression. Flo said that adjustments have been fundamental from getting me where I was when I walked into where I am today. And I feel that in myself. I think that every chiropractic patient starts to see that. I mean, we all love a before and after, right? If you've done home renovations and you're like, I've got to take a picture of this before, but
Right.
that, where I was when I walked in to where I am today, even our little, Facebook memories that pop up and show us like, remember what you were doing 4 years ago? And you're like, no, I did not. So yeah, this is a beautiful story.
Totally. And it's funny you mentioned the pre and post. Reminded to take some pre-pictures soon in a separate entity. But yeah, it's even cool for me. It's looking at nerve scans. It's looking at X-rays, and even the shifts and changes that surprise me. Maybe we'll see this structurally shift, and then you do. It's like, wow.
And that is cool in an office like yours where you are doing the different scans and x-rays and seeing those. I know we've talked before about different patients with severe scoliosis as well, where you have those severe structural issues.
Yeah,
And we think about, like you said, not looking for miracles, but looking for that steady progress, that steady improvement in performance that is a miracle in itself.
completely.
And I think about the restriction of just daily tasks. We're talking about a dancer who wants to be able to do incredible things. I am not flexible. I cannot touch my toes. I'm in yoga like the stiffest person there. But even in just daily tasks, when we think about the daily things of can we squat down on the floor with our children and play? Grandparents who talk about wanting to be able to just walk through a store or a museum with their grandkids. Don't remember, I think that was another story that you had, a woman who was so delighted to be able to walk around all day at a museum. That's what I love about sharing each of these stories, even if sometimes it gets repetitive, I think. We forget that each person's story, their level of performance is their own, and helping them to reach that is each new little story.
I think it's being attentive to the nuances of each story. You're right. Like the story share can seem repetitive sometimes or mundane if you don't ask the right questions or if you don't get to that distinct detail, whether it's the museum, it's the dance, it's the grandkids, it's the golf handicap, the whatever it might be. The early 20s kid who was referred by his sister, a student here, who said his reflex speed increased while getting adjusted. And it was almost the first like responsive. And like, I can't remember when someone has said that. I'm like, that was a cool one.
Yeah.
Just small, that sentence, like response time, reactive nature is faster with a sharper nervous system. Like that's worth recalling.
Yes. I love how you said asking the right questions, because I wanted to bring up you have a fabulous way of asking for reviews and getting a photo with that patient so that you have this stock of stories. Tell us your system. What questions do you ask? How do you make that happen?
I sometimes need a reminder, but when it comes up, I always like to tweak language. It's probably a partial obsession or a chiropractic thing of not everything being mainstream to the ear. So I try to be sure I ask people, what's changed for you? What is something that's different since the beginning? Or it's, hey, we've talked about how great the results are. How do you feel about sharing your story? And I always call it a Google testimonial.
Hmm.
We'll share because I hear review and I think restaurant, I think business, I think maybe a shorter customer interaction. But when someone's been around for days, weeks, months, or years, and I ask them, other people would love to hear your changes. There's probably someone out there who said, I have that, that's me, and they're hopeless, or they've tried other avenues and don't know where to turn. I just always frame it as whether I can help them or it inspires them to find a chiropractor close to them to look for help. So I try to make sure it's someone feels special in that share, and it's not like, hey, I'd love more reviews. Can you tell people how great I am? I'm comfortable in knowing that and humble enough to really work at it as well and make sure people just feel good in, again, telling their story in a few different ways. Even if it's the professor who really didn't like to have much of a visible online presence, I said, why don't you go to Rate MDs? It's completely anonymous, but you can still share something that people will pick up. And she did, and it was lengthy and it was great. And I might have to remember to, without a picture, share that one with you. That can be Jane Doe.
Yes.
Yeah, I just really inspire people to share for their own empowerment and perhaps another or others.
Yes. That's a beautiful way of putting it. And I feel like it puts the spotlight where it needs to be on like that improvement of performance and quality of life. Tell us too, like when you're asking for a photo, how you do it to ask for a photo. Do you warn them in advance? Because so many doctors tell me, I don't want to bother people. Nobody wants their picture taken. We never have time. We're busy. So tell us, how do you ask for a photo with that person?
Most of the time, I ask in advance, whether it's caught them on a hot summer day and it's one of those,
Yeah.
or it's just a little preface. And once in a while, someone's like, I'm not a big picture person. I'm like, no problem. I remember a couple where, whether it was personal sensitivity over their dental state, or just awkward with smiling, or just not camera ready, and make sure they know it's an option. Like if you
Hmm.
just don't want your picture, your story is delightful. And there was a few, was like, you're going to be in it with me, right? I'm like, yes. And I think that's what puts more people at ease. It's not just, all right, it's you and here we go. It's, I'm right there beside you. And if we have to take 6 so you feel better about your smile, or you have to go with the lips closed versus big teeth. And I forgot and then remembered when I asked Flo for a picture, said maybe in a funky dance position. And when they came back in and said, but you have to do it too. I'm like, of course I'll be in the picture. And then she showed me the move. I'm like, oh, right, I'm supposed to do that. So that was an even more fun moment where maybe I'm inspired to tell people like, let's take a funny picture.
Yes,
Let's just make some type of excited face versus even a gentle smile. I've just always been moderately confrontational.
I
You know,
like
I'll,
that.
I'll be more assertive with total readiness to be declined. Like, you know what? Thank you, but no. I'm like, okay, next question, next thing. So mostly in advance, I've got a phone ready that I use for music in the office. It's literally right at the table. I don't have to go anywhere. It's
Hmm.
it's completely accessible, which makes it that much easier. In a pre-shift huddle, I know long answer, but pre-shift huddle, I want to make sure, yes, picture with so and so. So even that if I comb what's left of my hair, I feel good about the picture at the same time. I feel ready. I make sure they feel comfortable with me.
Yeah, I like those points that, you have thought about it to ask them in advance. You have a device ready, and that then you have already set up your own mindset of being mildly assertive, of you've taken yourself out of the equation. Like those moments when we talk about like in chiropractic mindset, taking our own ego out of the equation of making it about their story and being perfectly willing to be told no because it's not about you. They're not rejecting you or anything like that. You're just ready to have it be about the story. And if we can include their beautiful human face, that's great because we have both seen is we love to see each other's faces. There's such a human connection, whether we're putting it on your website or your social media or even in an email newsletter. They've done studies. I do not remember who, what, where, but I'll put it in the show notes where they said when you see a smile, a true smile that like wrinkles all the way up to the eyes, you instinctively, reflexively smile back. And so that is part of the joy of remembering that it's not about making your social media look better. It's about really building a connection between this person and this story that was helped through chiropractic care with the next person who needs it. Like even just their smiling face, we all have the little insecurities about how we look in pictures, even the things that nobody else thinks about. My daughter, when she smiles really big, she feels like one eye looks smaller. And so she's always very nervous about that. And she's only
Right.
12. And so I've told her, if you don't like this picture, I will not post it. Like I will be respectful of
Yeah.
what you like.
It's
But
not your
also
needs as a mom to like, gotta post my family. Yeah.
no, no. It's just funny those things that pop up that nobody else thinks about. But yeah, putting that person at ease. I love it that you're willing to be in the picture with them. I do feel like that sets so many of us at ease to be like, I mean, whether it's, diving in the deep end of the pool or taking a picture or whatever is nerve-wracking for us to know, like, oh no, I'm right there with you. And however I look in the picture, it's not about me. So I love that point.
Thanks.
So, I love to ask also, what do you wish more people knew about health? What is something that you're just passionate about sharing in the office, in your communication? What do you wish more people in Toronto and the world? Like, even I think about our kids, we both have young kids. What do we wish our kids knew about health as they grow up?
It's a tough enough question in my mind with not fire hosing you with the answer. I had lunch with a colleague yesterday. He was very, very steeped in a functionality of the nervous system and retraining pattern, and it's awesome. And then the general public awareness of perception, whether it looks good, looks bad, even that social vein of, whitening teeth and smiles and standing up can look better to those who don't care. I really find that a confident posture and position and relating that to the spine and nervous system is my go-to inertia.
Mm.
I did a wellness workshop. It was just last week. Yeah, I can't even count days. And it was the first time in forever. But just to stand and talk, get up from your chair, don't sit so much. It has an impact on your spine and your nervous system and your well-being. Watching my kids chilling with Netflix and shows and just they can sit well. It's putting my son on the bigger chair with his iPad time and watching him slink back when his lower back sinks away. I'm like, you know what? We're just going to put a pillow behind you because your legs aren't long enough so that he can still relax and be more upright. That chiropractic piece of health really hits me. And the other part is just it comes back into like moving and movement. Motion is lotion, and
Mm,
our joints need it more. And even if that's a helpful reminder to myself that I might be a work on my feet a lot, it doesn't mean I'm even moving enough in the right ways to be more flexible, to get back to fingertips on the ground without even doing a warm up. Baseball with my kids last night with weird throws and interacting that I was jumping all over the place and came home surprisingly tired, but that was a lot of surprisingly good motion. So movement, posture awareness. I don't think enough people look at their posture beyond aesthetic
oh, yes.
or symptomatic. And there was just a way to share that, all of this time strains the spinal cord, pulls that connection from brain to body away from optimal to, your mother telling you to stand up straight has very little to do with looking good, but functioning well. I think that's where it has to go. And obviously, more people move away from pain versus towards pleasure generally.
Mm,
So I always think about finding that way to shift headspace to more pleasure, even though I think there's a plethora of chiropornography on social media with cavitation and adjustments that,
yes.
oh, I want that. That sounds like it feels good. I should go get that.
Mhm.
If that's a towards pleasure and people seek out chiropractic more, great. Maybe the way it's portrayed or how it comes up, I question.
Yeah.
Would I do that same stuff? But I had someone from a local store who's like, I was watching more of that, and then you came in with your jacket with a logo. It's like, I think I am. I might want some of that. I'm like, okay, so it kind of worked. It wasn't for my feed, it was others. So
Yes.
yeah, posture, movement.
I love that. I think about, I had a chiropractor tell me once when our nervous system is in safety, rest, and digest, it's extension and contraction is more of a sympathetic, stressed. And I thought, oh, but like we curl up in fetal position to feel safe. And it's like, no, we curl up in fetal position because we feel like we're in danger. And I have
And
thought about that.
safety is comfort, but not, yeah.
Right. And so I've thought about that. Like you said, when I mentally feel overwhelmed or stressed, and I realize at 4 o'clock in the afternoon that I'm curled up to take a 10-minute break. And I'm like, no, 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 no. That posture of even laying down, can I pull my brain and nervous system, encourage more this feeling of safety and relaxation by extending, even laying in bed? Can I have good posture of being in a restful posture? And so, yeah, I love that. Even, we think about when we're taking pictures, a lot of times a good photographer will encourage a confident posture by saying, put one hand on your hip, lean forward, different things because our brains really do know how a good posture feels and vice versa. And I love how, as often as we can try to remember good ergonomics and things, chiropractic also helps us to have that default where
Yes.
we don't have those subluxations, so we're not talking about thinking about a good posture all the time. We're talking about, being aligned so that we have a default that is a better posture. And I think that that's a beautiful thing to see someone who is going back to their natural, good upright posture, their natural, good seated posture.
I remember 20 years in, you hear a lot of stories and feedback, but I distinctly remember one of the first people who said, it's harder to slouch. I can't, this doesn't feel comfortable anymore. And it's led me to steadily say one of the best side effects of getting adjusted of chiropractic is easier natural posture.
Yes.
I won't call it better yet, but it's that they just they want to be upright because A, it's comfortable, B, it's manageable, and C is fill in the blank for now.
Yes, exactly. I was doing yoga this week and we did mountain pose with fingertips pressing down, crown of the head pulling up. And the beautiful thing is, after I do yoga, I generally go get adjusted. That's just how my timing works of of my day, but it is such a beautiful thing to have that movement, like you said, and then get checked, get adjusted, and to just feel like that posture is so much easier. That mountain posture is so much easier when that is part of my regular daily lifestyle and not just an emergency like, oh, I pinched a nerve and I really can't move my neck
Yeah.
and I've been slouching for 2 weeks. So I love all of that movement and posture, definitely. Is there anything else that you would want to share with what chiropractic doesn't cure with the nervous system? I definitely will share all of your links so that people can find you, your website, your social media things, because, like I said, you do love to educate, and I love how you share those stories.
Thank you. Well, this isn't a 6-hour podcast, so I don't think I'm going to start sharing anything else. Conversations with colleagues can go so tangentially full
Yes.
that uh, another topic for another time.
Yes, definitely. I do think that it would be an exciting thing if we did some one-off episodes that were maybe in person and were very long conversations. So we will see what the feedback is, if people would love to hear like the whole conversation another time. But thank you for your time today and for sharing this amazing story and all of these amazing points on better sharing stories, because it's so important to share chiropractic in this world.
Thank you. Hey, my pleasure, but thank you for all that you do. For those watching, if you don't really know Jenna, the excitement from a non-chiropractor, like the handful of others out there who got turned on and aware of Innate, it's an honor and privilege to work with you these past years and just know your vision and your purpose, that underlying inertia helping us chiropractors along is relatively priceless. So thank you.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you for sharing your story, and we'll definitely have to do another call for more topics.
Sounds good.